Ladies and gentlemen, before we get started on this episode, it's important to remember that we need to be empathetic and understanding of every single guest that I have on this show, so that way they understand that they can share this stuff without having any backlash coming from the community. I think it takes a lot of bravery for someone to come on this show and be able to tell about heart-wrenching things that occur. So please be understanding, empathetic, and supportive to my guests. If you enjoyed this content, it would really help me out if you did three things. You followed me on Twitter, you subscribed to me on YouTube, and you share out this video to any of your friends who might also enjoy this content. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Deep Dives into the Minds of Esports. My name is Blake Panashevitz, and with me today is a wonderful individual. He was previously a shoutcaster and an analyst for O Gaming. Over the last year, he has taken a more extensive role in growing talent and bringing new faces into the scene. I'm really excited to please let me introduce Thomas Si-Hassen, maybe better known as Zaboutine. Welcome.
Hey, hello. And you didn't actually you pronounced my name well. Thank you.
Good. Oh, good. So you'd think that I would be okay with pronouncing last names, considering my last name's Panashevitz, but it's really a nightmare for.
Is it Polish?
Yes, it is. It is Polish.
Yeah.
So, but
I've been
really,
to Poland. I've been spending 3 months in Poland in my life, so I love Poland.
I've never been there. I want to go there. It's on the
Absolutely
bucket
amazing.
list. So this is gonna be really fun, at least for me. And I'm going to get to ask you a bunch of questions that I'm very excited for. But I'm going to start off with something very, very easy. You were born in France, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, wine in France. Is it really that big of a deal?
Sorry, can you repeat the questions?
Wine, like drinking wine
drinking wine in France. I think that, like, don't get me wrong, we're not alcoholics drinking wine all the time. I think in the old time, it used to be like a common drink in every meal. Like every meal had a drink. I think it's more grandparents. I'd say now it's more a cultural thing where wine is included in our food culture, which is very big.
Yeah.
So definitely wine is a big thing, but I don't think that the way American picture our relationship with wine is very accurate, because whenever I meet people, it's like, oh, let's go and have wine, as if I didn't enjoy beer or liquor or just a glass of water or coffee. I'm not exclusively sold out to the cause of wine. I just enjoy wine, and I think it's kind of refined, like sophisticated in France to like and enjoy wine and know a little bit about it, but it's not mandatory, right? There is much more than that.
Okay, well, I'm happy to clear that out for everyone out there. So you mentioned actually some of the stereotypes of like the way that Americans kind of view France. And you're in a very unique situation because obviously you come from France and you're living in America. What have you noticed have been some of the major differences between like America and France? Going from literally the big political picture all the way down to the minute, maybe interactions.
So the first thing is from the top down, politically speaking. So I've been studying before because CASA has never been my main job. I used to be a financial analyst, and I have a master in economics and finance, market finance. So I'd say, economically speaking, the first thing is like there is no protectionism in the US. Like, you guys are all liberals. Like, all your biggest parts are very liberal. You kind of see like any kind of socialism as communism, which is very odd for France, which is a very socialist country. Like, sharing and taking some money for public service and things like that from the taxes and stuff is very common. You guys think it's very bad. Like, it's open to debate, obviously, but that's the biggest thing in I think in terms of politics, is everything is private, everything is corporate, and that's how the country is ruled, right? You have to make it between the big parts, and then this whole thing about making sure that all the citizens are happy with mostly everything being private, which is something very different. In terms of people, it's hard to say, because the headquarters of Uptake is based in Texas, and I think that people are very different depending on the state. The same way in Europe, people are very different depending on the country. I think that in California specifically, it's very hard to get into, I would say, the zone with people. Like, everybody's very nice. But being nice is being polite. It's like in France, you would say hello, goodbye. That's it. You're being polite and thank you. In US, it's and especially in California, it's more like you praise the guy like if he was the best person on earth, and it's just being polite. So you arrive as a French, and you're like, oh, everybody likes me, and then you understand, oh no, they're just being polite. Nothing's happening. And once you like, if someone calls you to do something like let's grab a coffee, and they actually do, they like you. If they say we should grab a coffee soon, they're just being polite. And that's the biggest difference. Like no one ever in France is going to say, oh, we should get a coffee if they don't want to have coffee with you. Doesn't make sense, right? But that's the biggest thing I think, and people call it fake, but I think that's more the culture. Like the American culture is not to hurt other people feeling. That's the biggest thing. Like at any cost, you shouldn't hurt anyone's feeling. So it's very important to be very pleasant and very flattering in a certain way, but it's just being polite. And once you get it, it's very easy. So that's it for people. I'd say for food and habits, I'd say it's pretty much the same as everywhere. Like I think that the rest of the world is getting Americanized more than anything else. So I used to get food delivered every time, just eat out most of the time. I like cooking myself, but I'd say it's something I got used to. And the last thing would be, things that I miss the most is probably historic things. Like, you know, that's the thing. If in the US you have a lot of money, imagine you have millions and millions. There's very few things besides buying things. Whereas like in Europe, you can just walk and see things that are priceless, right? You see, thinking about France, let's take an example. Like you go to Musée Le Louvre, and there is La Joconde. This is priceless. The ticket is like 15 euros or 10 euros, right? You don't need to be rich, but what you're going to see, you can't see it anywhere else in the world. I kind of miss that in the US, where okay, there is stores and there is like landscapes, but what else? What should I do, right, in my free time besides eating and playing video games? I don't have this thing, or I'm going to do something. I don't want to say sophisticated, because I think that America is very sophisticated in its way, sorry. But I kind of miss this part of like just walking around and doing nothing while having a great place to walk. And walking, I miss walking somehow. Yeah, that's, I would say, on different aspects, that's how I see the big difference between I would say Western Europe and America.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that you had a master's degree in finance, and you actually have a undergrad degree in mathematics and computer science, if I did my research correctly.
Yeah.
So what made you decide for those like degree paths? Like you're leaving. I know that the school system is a little bit different inside of really Europe and France compared to the United States, to my knowledge, because we get like weird with like high school and then college and then university, but college and university are functionally the same thing. Here in the States. So what made you get into, I want to do mathematics and computer science?
I think, so I've always been good in mathematics and computing science. Computer science I discovered by itself, because so at the end of my high school degree, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My passion has always been video games, but I kind of knew that the process of making video game is very cumbersome, long, and very pressuring. And I knew that I wouldn't be happy maybe in a indie studio, but that's a hard and tough living choice, right? You commit on it, and if you're not happy at the end, like you basically only know programming. So because I didn't know what to do, I was like, okay, let's go and just do mathematics, because I love mathematics. That's something I really like, and I did it. And actually, IT, like computing science, was included into the courses. So I started, and I actually was. So I started in the best computing science university. By chance, it was just random, and I think I was second in my promotion, something like that. So I actually found out to be very good at it. So I kept doing it a little bit. I switched university from an IT and mathematics to a finance one, which has a very good courses in math and IT as well. And I did twice the first year of college, right? Mm-hmm. Because I had to change my my major. So once you change your major, you need to do the same year. And actually, I majored in IT, so I kept doing it. And math became harder and harder. And I used to be very lazy because I didn't find enjoyment in working in like an academic environment. Actually, that's the biggest takeover I have from esports. I actually enjoy working a lot. I came a workaholic, but I hate school since I'm very young, and I really felt since I was a little boy that I hated working, because the only work you can do when you're a kid is pretty much tidy your room and work at the school. And if you don't like both, which I don't, you think that you're not good at working. And actually, I like working. Just I need to find something I like. And I kept doing math, but academic math is kind of boring in France. And I switched to economics after 2 years because I think that the trade-off between how much I invested and how much I was willing to invest and the expectation I could have from that, where it was a bad trade-off. So switching to economy made my grades much better because it's much easier as a field. And I actually graduated without too much trouble, which allowed me to actually start working in esports as a caster.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned like growing up that you didn't really like school, and like you mentioned like the work life and how it kind of gave you that image of I don't know that I like to work, because you hadn't found something that you were passionate about and that you loved. So what was kind of like school growing up for you like looking at like the younger ages? Because like we look at school in America, and especially if you watch the news a lot, it gets brought up a lot, different issues that people have, whether it's social standards or getting bullied, and the huge demographic change that you can see between like different statuses. So what was school like growing up for you in France?
I think school. So I used to live in the north suburbs of France, which is a place where most of the poor people and immigration happens. So I would say there is a lot of social conflicts there between rich and poor, different ethnicities and stuff. It's not the best place to live in France, definitely. And public school is one of the worst. I think maybe the worst in the whole France. So I started doing public school when I was a kid. Till I think I was 7 or 8, yeah, and wasn't that great because I would say I had very poor social skills when I was a kid. I was just speaking out my mind with no filter, and this is something that can be very badly received from the other kids when like you should use kind words and you don't, because like for instance I was very good at school when I was a kid. I was like, you guys don't understand that? You must be idiots, you know. But to me it sounded like this shit is really easy, you know, so these guys should understand that. But growing up, you understand that you're going to be terrible at things, right? And other people will be very easy at what you try to do, and they would say, but they won't come to you and say you're an idiot, Thomas, right? You're just going to say, oh, this guy has a hard time. I don't know. I'm terrible at music. I'm terrible at art. You gave me drawing, painting, music, whatever I try. I'm just terrible. And so people just, you know, taking a piano and just playing, and like, oh, must be amazing. And the same thing I do in math, but school only like teach you academic things. So I really feel like, oh, I'm doing it's easy for me, it's hard for the other, so I must be better. This is how you think when you're a kid. And yeah, I think I learned it the hard way. I think I didn't had a lot of friends when I was a very young kid. And then I switched. I just completely switched my way of being. I would say when I was 9 or 10, I switched to a private school, Catholic private school, because so lots of people in France are atheists, right? Or just they agnostic. Even, but I was in a Catholic school. My roots are Arabic, so I have I would say a kind of a Muslim influence. My parents are not Muslim, but I have Muslim influence from my father in terms of like education values, but as well as Catholic, like Christian, because of the school, which was very good because now it made me very tolerant towards like religion and stuff, because I know backgrounds of different religions and stuff. And I discovered how to behave in society, right? Just being more compliant toward other people's weaknesses, understand that you have your own and you can't like just fall them at other people's faces. And then yeah, I think school was very easy in terms of like knowledge. I have always had very good grades, but my challenge was to understand the social codes to get accepted. And I think that making my point was a big challenge all the time. And this is how I became a caster. It's just I worked so hard on trying to explain things that went through my mind the right way that ended up being good at that. And that's how I became a caster. It's just I like to teach things to people that don't know, because the prior thing that you have when you're kids is like, this guy doesn't understand. I understand. I'm better. But then you're like, this guy doesn't understand. I understand. I'm a terrible person if I can't make this guy understand. That's how I think now about the thing. That's why I ended up being a coach. That's why I've been teaching at the university. That's why I do mentorship in casting. That's why I help people all around the esports as much as I can. It's just I like helping people that don't have the chance of like this opportunity sometimes, or just doesn't have the good teacher to actually achieve, because most of the people are just very gifted. They don't find the right teacher to show their own skills. So that's pretty much how my childhood was, just being very unaccepted, but very gifted at school, to being maybe worse at school, but much more accepted. And I think that transition was really good for me, because I ended up being more a normal person.
Yeah. And so one of the things I'm definitely hit you up on later, and a question I want to check is kind of like the way that you view like mental health and the way that you talk about players. But I have another question that got brought up, and it kind of like brought me back to like a past, because we're actually relatively close in age. I think you're 30, and I'm going to be 20.
I just turned 30.
I'm going to be 27 in a couple weeks. So we're relatively close to the same age. And like one of the things that I remember growing up with, and you mentioned this, like your background was a Christian or Catholic with Muslim. And I know that in the States, there is a huge divide between those two like groups. And I was wondering if you ever had any issues with that growing up, because I know in the States, I've always kind of viewed this as something that I think that we need to be very accepting of other people, but I think it can be really hard for people. And so, like, kind of like relating that, did you have any issues in France with that? Because I know in the States it can be a really big issue.
You know, so in France there is separation between church and state. So nothing from the state or public school and stuff has nothing in regarding religion. And obviously there is this trend since I think 2001 between like separating the world between Muslims and the non-Muslim and things like that. So it's it's very cliche, I'd say. That's a very rough painting of the situation. But I'd say so personally my family is agnostic. So we don't really think about, I haven't been raised in any kind of religious context besides the values that comes from my I would say older family that's Muslim. I think there are people that misunderstand the core of like different religions, and they sort of want to exist by hating other cultures and stuff like that. And sometimes people try to hit you, but as I'm not part of any of these groups, right? I when I'm with Catholic, I understand exactly what they do. When I'm with Muslim people, I understand everything what they do when they do Ramadan, when they have Eid and things like that. I'm perfectly fine with all these things. And when I was with Jewish, because during my study I get to know a lot of Jewish people, was perfectly fine as well for me. I tried to adapt. I don't think I had a lot of trouble. I think people try to give me shit when I was a kid, because kids love to give shit to people for any difference they have. But I never minded, because first, it's not personal, right? I'm not part of these communities. I just understand them because I've been growing with them pretty much. And there is 4 million Muslims in France, so it's very easy to understand how Muslims live and how they have their calendar and how they celebrate things. If you just take a little bit of time, just go with them, and you see that celebrating Christmas is great, celebrating like Ramadan is great, as long as there's great people, there's just good moment to share with them. And yeah, that's the thing. I think that's France really mixed cultures. I think America more separates. You have like clusters of different cultures and ethnicities. But I like the fact that I've been growing with so many different people, because at the end of the day, I think I'm much more accepting of like differences, and I learned slowly but steadily how to not to hurt people's feelings towards what they think is the truth, right?
And so one of the reasons that I like bring this stuff up is because obviously you are a head coach now, and you work with different cultures. And my question to you is has a lot of that stuff prepared you, like the way that you grew up, in order to handle different cultures? And what approach do you take when you get someone who's from a different area or a different like section of a culture? And how do you start to work towards learning about them?
I think that the power of questions is, if you assume things, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and people don't give you, like, people say you have one chance. I'd say in a working environment, you have more than one chance, because you get to see the people more than once. But the key to get acceptance from people is to ask questions, no matter what, you know? It's like you go to a Muslim and you're like, you guys do that? Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know. And if you work with a Korean and you ask them questions, ask them as many questions as you have on their cultures. Like Arrow has been asking me hundreds of questions about Western world, right? Just, do you guys do this? Do you guys do that? How do you do this? How do you handle that? Is this squad good? Is this squad bad? And same between Europe and America. I have a very hard time not being bold. I'm bold as fuck even in France, and France is very bold. And I've come to America, and especially California, where you shouldn't hurt feelings. So sometimes, like, man, this is terrible, and people are like, oh, you hurt his feeling. And I'm like, oh, sorry, that's true. You shouldn't say this is terrible. Oh, I actually think that it's not appropriate to actually do this in that way, because so you have to refine yourself. But I think that it's always the thing is, you can make mistakes as long as you apologize. And the best way to avoid mistakes is to ask first. So what I try to do is I spend a lot of time outside of working hours, just sitting next to the players and ask them as many questions as I can about their life, how they think like social interactions are, what their family background is, what they like in life, just grabbing coffee, speaking about random things about life. I think this is what creates binds in the bonds. You said binds or bonds? I never know. Binds, I think in the long run.
Bonds.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how I see it. It's just ask as many questions, and you won't be as wrong as you should be if you ask prior to of doing, because I think that's something that's very Western world, but we like, I think Europe and America, I think that our way of doing things is really good, and we sometimes just go and say, we go to China, we go to anywhere, it's like, oh yeah, let's do that, and it's actually very inappropriate, right? So I think it's very important to just ask questions. And working with Tristan was really easy. It's German and French, so same. But for American people and Korean, yeah, you need to ask more questions for sure.
Okay. I really like that, because I know that was one of the things that I really worked on, is that you should never really assume certain things about people. You should just ask them questions, because you're way safer just asking questions about like what's going on, what are they thinking about, than assuming. Because if you assume, then you look bad, and it makes them feel bad. So I can fully agree with that 100%. So did you have any brothers or sisters growing up? Or are you an only child?
I have two sisters.
Older or younger?
I have an older sister. She's a lawyer. She is 1 year older than me, so she's 31. I have a little sister. She's working. She's in a university. She's have a psychology major.
Ooh. I approve. I've also got a psychology degree, so
she's the future employee. You know, she's my future sports side. She doesn't know it yet, but she's my future sports side.
That's what you're hoping.
Yeah, and my actually that's funny, because my whole family plays video games since very old times. Like, my parents told me how to play video games, and everybody enjoy what I'm doing since years and years. And my sister started doing she's a lawyer into eSports. She actually started a cabinet of lawyers in eSports, and my little sister is very interested in it. She doesn't work in it, and I don't think she plans working in it, but she's very into like watching the games and stuff.
So you mentioned your whole family's into games. When did you start to get into games then? Was it very young with like
3.
Okay, so it was some early Genesis, was it like Nintendo 64?
Master System. I used to play Master System.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so my parents used to play a lot in arcades, and my father was playing more. My mom was mostly watching. So it was a lot of platform games, because my parents don't like violence a lot. Like, everything related to war, monsters, aliens, to zombies, vampires, they don't like it. So it was very Japanese colorful games like Alex Kidd, Psycho Fox, this kind of games, if people can relate to it. So I was playing a lot of platformer games, and my parents were teaching me. And suddenly I stopped playing with my toys and just playing games all the time. So my parents were telling me, you should play other games, but I lost interest in pretty much everything from the age of 3 to the age of 20. Besides playing games. That was my thing. That was my jam. I don't really enjoy watching movies or series. I'm pure hardcore gamer. And then my father kind of stopped working when analog and 3D came in. He didn't like it, the transition. But my two sisters started playing a little bit. I actually taught my little sister to play Smash Bros. So she was my guinea pig on any combo. So she suffered a lot because I never let her win. And my mom started playing more lately on PC with Age of Empire. And now she keeps playing. And when she saw I became a coach, she started playing League of Legends against bots to understand the game. And now she can understand more what's happening in pro games, and she's watching all the EU and NA LCS since a year, and she enjoys it. Like she can't wait for the season to start and stuff. So I'm very lucky because I have a very supporting family for that.
Yeah, that's really nice because my parents definitely did not support video games, and it's actually very common for a lot of parents to not support video games. Especially, I'm willing to bet that at least one of your players, their parents probably didn't support it. Because
More than one.
I said at least. That's me
Yeah.
being generous. And so it's like a very common thing that video games are supported. You mentioned that video games are something that you really only like to do. That you didn't really enjoy movies. You didn't really enjoy doing other things. Does that mean that you were someone who was more introverted and preferred to stay home alone, or did you have lots of social friends and stuff like that too?
So growing up, as I say, I was not growing in a very safe environment. I would say like it's the same as living in Detroit during the 2000 or something like that. So not as bad because we don't have guns in Europe and things like that. So it's a little bit safer.
That's hilarious.
It's rude to say that.
No, it isn't. It's not rude at all.
I just, from pure logical standpoint, it's safer to go outside if people don't own guns.
Yeah, I mean,
especially if there is like crime and stuff, it's just much better, right? But my parents didn't let me go out much. That's why video games were my jam. There was no online. I had internet in 1997, so I was one of the first to get internet in France. But it was like 56K, so nothing big happens. It was just like chatting online and discovering the web. But I think I spent a lot of time playing online gaming whenever the high, like the broadband came. Say broadband, I think. Like
broadband, yeah,
broadband. So I played a lot of online games. I'm a very extrovert person. I really hate being alone. I like to have sometimes I would say a day I like to spend, if I'm awake 16 hours, I like to spend 2 hours alone and 14 hours with people, pretty much. So I like the only moment I was actually dropping my console to play was with my sister, because I like to I'd rather do a social interaction, a social thing with people than playing on my own. But for instance, watching a movie is the most, like, even if you're people, you're actually alone. So I really hate watching movies. That's the thing. It's the less social thing you can ever do.
I just had this argument with someone the other day, actually, because I was like, if you're going to the movies, you might as well go alone, because you're quite literally doing an attack.
It's a worst first date.
It is literally
First date.
I want to sit with someone and not talk to them for 2 hours. Like,
I never understood why people, like, when you invite a girl invites a guy for the first time for a date to a movie. It is the worst possible. You speak 15 minutes before the movie, 15 minutes after the movie, and then you need to do something else. So you just literally lost 2 hours, and then you're going to speak about the movie. You don't want to, like, it's the first date. Don't you want to get to know the person instead of like say, oh yeah, Thanos is really bad. Yeah, I agree. Cool. Did you like the movie? Yeah. Maybe you should start get a coffee and actually talk. So I don't get like the point of watching a lot of things together. To me, a movie is something I do on my. I don't do it a lot. I really don't enjoy that much watching things, but if I do, I just do it alone. Like say 99% of the time.
So that brings me to another question then. A lot of players tend to be more introverted, from my experience, in working with players. How do you deal with players who are introverted?
It's easy. You're just giving them time. The hard part is not for them. Mm-hmm. This is what I discovered Romain, because Romain, as far as no one knows, but he's very introvert.
Really?
He's very he's very extrovert when he's outside with people. Like, he really likes to talk and really like to be, I would say,
charismatic and
extravagant.
Yeah.
I think it's a word. Yeah, it's very extravagant. But when everything stops, he really likes to have a blanket and a good movie or a single player game like Subnautica and just play on his own. That's his thing. That's his jam. And I really respect that. It's hard for me, because when you're the only extrovert and you're like, guys, let's go dinner. No, I'm just going to play a league. Guys, a coffee? No. I need to talk. I need to talk. That's my way of like evacuate stress, things like that. So that I think that the first 3 months have been very hard for me in the US. Very, very, very hard, because I didn't know anyone. All my other friends I made were in Dallas. And the only friend I kind of had was Romain, who was still my boss. And at night, you finish the scrims and no one gets out. Everybody keeps playing, and you're alone, and you want to do something because you just ended up working and you have nothing to do. So you don't really like rest. Like, your brain never rests, because you're always looking for social interactions, and you know no one. Right now, I know I can just get my phone, say, hey man, do you want to hang out? Do you want to go? Do you want to play Smash? I have a few people like here and there I can actually hang out with. Wasn't the case in the first 3 months, so it was kind of hard. Yeah, just dealing with them is very easy. You just let them do their shit, and it's hard for the person that are actually extrovert and want to see people. You're the bothering guy in this situation.
Yeah. And that's kind of the way that I've kind of always viewed it. And I know that I've gotten to talks with people. And the reason I ask this is because in my opinion, a lot of gamers tend to be introverted, and there's been talks about whether or not gamers should be like allowed to play other games or to do other things. And I've always kind of stressed that someone's free time is really their own free time. They need to use that free time in whatever way makes them feel the most energized or rejuvenate, especially after working. And if you look at like eSports work, I think that's something that's really important that we don't get to talk a lot about, is the fact that you need to give people their time in order to rejuvenate. And I think that's something that you kind of hit on.
Yeah, that's the thing is, at Optic, I always fostered the fact that a day off is a completely day off. So, like, playing solo queue is part of the job and not something that you can do during working hours. I think that there is a sweet spot to find and a confidence between, like, top-down confidence where I don't have to monitor the amount of game they play a week to make sure that they are professionals.
Yeah.
But, you know, they have set up at home, but they have set up at the office. They have their own private PC at the office, so they have a setup to stream and a private setup. So I see who's staying at the office and playing games at night. I see who's going back home. I know that some players go home and play a lot, and because they actually stream or thing like that. I'm here and there watching and monitoring the OPGG sometimes, and there is times where people are actually slacking a lot. Right, that happens. I came some last year to a play and was like, "Man, you play 6 solo queue this week. What the fuck are you doing?" No, he was perfect good in scrims, was communicating well. His approach of the game was good. Laning was great, no problem. But still, right, it's your job, so you should enjoy what you're doing. And if you don't, we need to talk about it. But after these 2, 3, 4 solo queue games a day, maybe more, depending on like how much they need to adapt to the meta and stuff, I think it's very important to let them on their own. And if you want to play RuneScape, if they wanna watch animes, if they want to hang out, if they want to have a girlfriend, if they want to just come back home and have their pets, everyone has their own way of, you know, getting energy back after a hard day of work. And sometimes this is the best way, because I think that esports tries sometimes too hard to disregard the fact that they are people after all, and they are not people that get educated of being pro gamers. It's kind of it's a random thing that happened to them, and not respecting that makes them very unhappy and pressured. And because of the system is very long, at the end you see team collapsing. You see teams. I've been speaking to many players now, and you have players like, man, that was hell. This was hell, because like coach were behind our back every day asking us to play and play and play. You see Bang says it, like, I couldn't stay in SKT, it was just too hard. So you win, that's great. But if you get burned out after 3 years, what's the point? Yeah. That was your passion. Was your passion, man. So I think there is a sweet spot, right? Because obviously I can't say, oh my god, SKT is so bad, they should do like Optic that was 9 and 7s last year. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we should try as much as we can as coaching staff and management to find a sweet spot between players being very professional and doing whatever they need to achieve good performance, and giving them actual free time where you're not behind the back saying, oh, why are you playing this game? You know, and this contract, this moral contract between you and them, creates the actual trust relationship that you need to actually build a good team atmosphere. That's why I think, at least for Western players.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with that. And I think that's something that's really important. So you mentioned that like 3 years they're burnt out. This kind of brings up another question that gets talked about in esports. How long do you think an esports career can be? Because a lot of people...
years.
Okay, I want you to go a little bit more into it, because I would agree. I think that it's unreasonable to think that an esports career is very short, but I feel like a lot of teams or organizations treat it like it's very short. That it's something that these are limited times, so we need to get as much as we can, we need to work them as hard as we can, and then we need to find new people. So I want you to go into why you think that it's something that can be long-term, because...
So... I've been around since kind of forever in league environment. So I was casting on stage the first time SOAS was on stage. He was 16. And I asked him, you should join, because I was working a little bit for a team. I was like, you should join this team. And he said, no, man, I'm not joining. I want to be a baker. And I say, man, you should definitely go pro. You have so much talent. I was playing a little bit with him at Blue Line Champion, like the ancestor of like battle rights. I spoke with him here and there. I met him many times, and he didn't commit to it. But he was 16 and was already on stage, and he's still one of the most proficient, if not maybe the best Western top laner. Like debatable, right? But he's among the top of the top of top lane. It's good teammate. Everybody has only nothing but kind words toward him whenever in private or in public. I think that Soaz is one of the most proficient, and I'm saying that because he's French. You might find other examples. So my point here is, and this is the question: what makes Soaz lasting so much, and what made, for instance, amazing having that spread of performance during his career?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, if you ask people a lot of questions and players a lot of questions, you see that it's the same thing as in school. There is a moment at school where you have a bad teacher that's going to make you hate this field, and you're never going to get back at it because then you will have lacks, like just holes in knowledge, and you can't get back at it. So you're going to hate because it's going to be hard. And I think that's the sweet spot for a player is to play whenever he feels like playing and committing on a season or a split, but understanding that sharing time and taking breaks is an essential thing within a player life. So I'm going to take 3 examples for that.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is Soaz. Soaz really loves competing. He loves playing the game, never get really tired of it. But Soaz's performance through a year is always, it's a steady climb.
Yep.
He starts kind of low. You think Soaz kind of washed up, kind of lose the lane, plays his comfort zone peaks. And through the year, it's like Spring Split doesn't matter. He says it. And then you say, oh, yeah. Soaz is trolling and stuff. And then by the end of Summer Split, Soaz is popping off because he knows when he has to invest a lot within the season to actually be at his peak. That's what actual professional sportsmen do. That's one example. And every year does the same. He doesn't burn out himself playing 20 solo queue a day in January, ends up hating the game mid-March.
Mm-hmm.
He does it in a smart way. And he has his private life. He travels a lot, take breaks, doesn't attend a lot of All-Stars. He knows what he needs, and he's in control of his career. Second example, Amazing. I spoke with him. He had an amazing run at Worlds 2015. And then he didn't feel like playing. But he kept playing. And it actually started his decline as a player. Because you need to love the game to be good at the game. Right? And he has a big hole and actually thought about retiring. And he actually kind of retired. Like, Amazing was out of the map. And he came back in Schalke, had a great performance, went to final, and didn't find a team afterwards. I think it's more about, like, I would say meta information about the player, reputation and stuff. I don't know. Like,
I actually had Amazing on my show, and it was a really good show.
I think Morris. I never worked with Morris. I know, like, I had a lot of like different opinion on Morris as a worker, but as a person, every time I met him, I felt like he's a great guy. He's definitely a great guy, and seeing him back and at the final made me feel, when he reached the final, I was like, this is the proof. This is the actual proof that you can stop, come back, and being insanely good, and keep being one of the best, because he was literally facing Fnatic and in final of EU, which is the second best region in the world, more than Korea. So whatever you will say, it is a proof that you can do it. So as Amazing, let's go to Doublelift, amazing player, right? Like, literally, you look at the track record of NALCS winners, the team that has Doublelift wins. That's it. You have Doublelift, you win, right? So, and who's the favorite for the next year is Team Liquid. Why? Because they have Doublelift. That's it. It's not Jensen, it's not CarJJ. They have Doublelift. They're going to win. That's if you're just a pure statistical, you know nothing about League, this is what you're going to say.
Yep.
Do you remember when he took a break? Everybody was saying, "Oh, he's going to retire."
Yeah.
Everybody was saying,
they replaced him with Wild Turtle, I think, for TSM.
Yeah, exactly. And everybody was thinking, "Oh, it's over. It's over. The belief time's gone." But it wasn't, and he actually subbed in for Team Liquid but he has less pressure on Team Liquid that he had in TSM, and he could prove himself that he was still good at it while taking a break and enjoying his life and understanding why he loves the game. and he came back in TSM, and they didn't have that amazing of a run at Worlds, but they still went to Worlds. And I think that, the match between Misfits could have been like, it's one game, it's BO1, so you can play it like, if you play it 70 times or 100 times, maybe it's 40 or 50 times they actually achieved. Maybe it was just a coin flip. But Misfits won and didn't make it to outside of groups. But that's the thing. I actually think that was really good for Doublelift. And no, look how much of a killer mentality he has. He's in Team Liquid. He's the best performing ATC in NA. Has been nailing the whole year. Didn't achieve his goal at Worlds, and literally said on Twitter on the interview, "I know it's been a meme. Every year I come back and I fell, but the only thing I can say is I'm never going to give up." And what does that mean? It means if it takes 10 years, do you think he's going to give up?
No.
It's not. So the proof is these 3 different stories prove the point. If you know how to manage your time and you don't burn yourself by playing a game you don't like anymore while the game changes, because Riot makes like your journey with the game a very bumpy road. Like last year was horrible. Riot gave us was literally the enemy of the pro teams. But if you manage your time the right way, you end up being lasting very long, and you can play for 10 years plus, at least. I say 20, but 10 years plus for sure.
Okay.
That's what I think.
No, I agree. I've always wondered, because that's one of the things that I've gotten into debates on, is people always say that careers are so short, and I'm like, I don't think you should look at careers being short. Otherwise, you end up not giving sufficient resources to those players. Because if you're looking at them as something that is just going to be done, then you would, like in a year or 2 years, you would treat them very differently than you would someone who you expect to have 10 years, because you would try to build more. You would try to help them achieve things. And that was actually my next question, is because you take this long-standing, are you caring more holistically about the players and making sure that they kind of get to that point where they are always passionate about the game? Because I think a lot of people, they like the idea of being pros, but they don't necessarily like being pros. Like, the idea always sounds very good, like, oh, I'm going to be famous and I'm going to get to play here, but I think in actuality it's a lot more work than a lot of people are expected for, and when they get there, I think a lot of people don't know if it's something that they actually like. So do you guys work on that?
I think everyone has their own deep motivation, right? You have your own deep motivation. I have mine. My side coach have, whether it's money, recognition, women, pride, competition, thrive, adrenaline, game.
Yeah.
Everybody has. What's important is to find it and phrase it and identify it, because most of the people are not even aware of that. Because it's an introspective process.
Yeah.
You need to understand what drives you. Because you've been playing games, right? And then you've been transferred into the house and you're playing every day, and you get like a shitload of money for that. So you have like 3 or 4 times the amount of like money a financial analyst will make, and you're just playing games, and you need it, right? That's your job, and you just lost. Why? Because you didn't identify what you're doing. Why? So, for instance, I'm going to take the example of Meteos. I spoke with Meteos and I asked him, so what do you like? And he's like, I like competing. Like, what I really like is the competition. I love the game. I'm having a blast at this game, but I really like competing. So for Meteos, it's about competing. It's about trying to achieve a certain standard of performance within the team against other teams that are trying to do the same. And these pressuring environments make him like feeling good. Okay, so because he's older, he identified what he wants, right? A younger player might not. Dokla needs more help finding what he likes. Does he likes the game? Does he likes working the game? Doesn't like anything beside the game because he never experienced anything else? And I think that as a staff, it's very important to try to find the deep motivation for anyone in the team, from like the very top, like I would say the investor, till the people are cleaning the toilets, literally. Everybody needs to know why they're doing that, in a way that work is never punishment, and that makes them better, easy to work with, and just lasting longer. So I think that's my experience through life told me to find it, and I try to transfer this process to the players I'm working with. And I hope that the players I've been working with had a great time, whether they just stayed or left, because it's very important for me. It's more important than anything to achieve something. I achieve the player more even than the results in the performance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Performance is a side effect. Like results are the side effect of like good work with the players and good practice at work.
Yeah, I can 100% agree. That was always one of the things. Is I was always like, when I was working with players, because I worked with the LA Gladiators last year. I was always like, the players are my number one priority. Like, I'm gonna work on their mental state. I'm gonna improve that, and as an effect, that should make them play better. But my main goal is the players. Like, I can't worry about winning or losing. I have to worry about the players and making sure their mental is good. And when that's good, then that means they should win more. So winning is an effect of me like doing my job, right? So I 100% agree with that. You mentioned like different mentalities and getting through that. How have you dealt with different mentalities on teams? Because I know that you've probably had individuals who are on different scales. Maybe someone who's more upfront and aggressive and bold versus someone who's maybe more introverted or passive. How do you deal with different personalities like that?
I think, and that comes to a point, exactly to a point where it's a common question, because I see a lot of former players that are like 23, never done anything besides playing League, that are getting head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wonder how reviews happen, just because I think it's very important first to put your ego on the side, but still have a very strong personality to be able to keep the ownership of the speech, the ownership, not holding the speech, right? Just the ownership of like the mood of the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that you have authority to, whenever someone cross the line, say, like, you cross the line, stop now. You're not speaking about the game, you're speaking about the person. It's getting personal. So we stop these discussions, not productive, go out, take a walk, come back. It's very important. And I think that, for instance, even though I don't have much of an experience as a coach, I didn't, because now I have 1 year. I think 1 year is already a lot, compared to someone that doesn't have an experience. If I compare the me today and the me of last year.
Yeah.
But I think that being 30, having working for 6 years in a professional environment, having been managing people for most of my life, and working with people that mostly are years younger than me, is very, very, very useful. I'm not saying it's easy. It's never easy, but it's very useful, because I say, man, like, you need to stop now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that because I'm your coach and I want to abuse the fact that I'm the coach and I get the authority. You're not doing anything productive, but my age and my past give me a way of like having more authority in this kind of field. I feel like if you're a player and you're like 23 and just get out of your career and you go into the review and everybody's getting emotional, how do you do not getting pissed the same way a player do? How do you speak not as a player but as a head coach, someone at the top of the pyramid that's actually driving the whole ecosystem? So I know that teams do great with that. So I'm not saying it's bad, it's good. It's just questioning how they handle it. I think that some players are more mature than others. But from what I've seen, a lot of players get emotional when they get frustrated, and being coach is very frustrating. And sometimes me, I get very emotional. And this is the moment where my side coach is saying, zap, zap, zap. Let me hold it, right? Because you're getting pissed about saying the same things so many times in a row. And everybody has their ceiling, like, in terms of patience. And when it's break, it's the moment when you just need to take a walk and come back and be very keep your composure. But that's it. I think it's very it's your challenge on a daily basis, is how do you control the different egos, and how you make sure that the discussion is always constructive and people are have at least, say, 10 to 15% takeaway from all the discussions. I would say everything else is forgotten. This is how things happen in life. But at least 15% is great. Like, if you reach 15% a day, you're going to end up great. So that's it. I don't think there is a magical recipe for that, depending, because it's a person to person.
Yeah.
I just think that my age and my past helped me a lot doing that, because I actually think that for the past year at least, I had a very good respect from the players I was working with as a human.
Mm-hmm.
As a coach, you ask them, but as a human, I think that I was able to control this cross the line situation.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really good. So we've talked a lot about like putting resources into people and to grow them and stuff like that. How do you decide when you can't do that anymore? When you're at a point where I put in all these resources and I'm not getting any sort of return, how do you decide that, okay, we need to let these people go now? Like, we need to let them go someplace else, give them to someone else. Is it a failure do you feel like that's a failure on your part? Do you feel like I should have trying more? What do you take with those situations where you eventually, because it happens to every team, you have to let someone go?
Mm-hmm. I think it really depends to the case by case. So I can take some examples. I think, for instance, Zig. I wasn't mature enough as a coach, and I think that the fact that I was young and new, and the coach of P1 was very successful from a player and things like that, made it very not very inclined to listen to what I had to do and had to say. And at the same time, I was learning my job, so I was making a lot of mistakes in terms of process, review, stuff like this. Review was much messier than what they were at the end of the year. And I think that it didn't play in my favor towards Zig eyes. And there is a non-returning point that you go to. And I felt like I didn't help him enough raising his performances, and I didn't think like I could do it. I didn't think that he was listening to even my feedback that could help him. So this like the link was kind of like broken from the start, and him switching to another team was, I think, the best choice for both, and we agreed on that. Lemon was kind of different. I think that Lemon, in terms of personality, I really like the guy. I actually spent New Year with him, so I really love Lemon as a person. I felt like he was very old, very experienced. I wasn't very experienced, at the same age as I am, and stuff like that. Made the whole speech very hard. It can be very stubborn. I can be very stubborn, so speech can last for hours. And eventually, I felt like it's very hard to. I don't feel like I can right now with my time constraints do better in this situation with him. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that I am the right person for him to actually show himself. That's what I felt. And for instance, Big came in, and I have a very good relationship with Big, and I think that Big improved a lot. Meaning that sometimes maybe it's you, but you shouldn't take it personal. It's the connection within two people. Because Big came very unsure of himself, very doubting himself, not shot calling at all, and became the main shot caller of the team. Mm-hmm. And he had POE right, and actually was the main shot caller. So works. This works. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Last example. Sorry, I'm taking a lot of examples, but I think it's good. Matthew, so our jungler. So Acadian has been improving a lot within the string splits. I've been working a lot with him on very specific points. I think making him more aware of like the big picture, understanding more the flow of the game, this kind of stuff. Because as a caster, I'm not really picky about the details, but more about the big picture. And switching to coach, I think I kept this approach. And I felt like we kind of hit a wall at some point during the season where I felt like he wasn't improving anymore as much as he should have. And he kept doing the same thing. I was getting frustrating at it. I spoke a lot with him. I have very, very good relationship with Matthew. And at the end of the year, I literally came to him very early. I said, Matt, I think we shouldn't work together next year, just because I don't feel like I didn't find the solution to overcome this wall. I still don't see it. You don't, because you didn't change the way you work with me. So you actually think that I'm doing what I should be doing towards you, but I can't. So it's if we keep working together, we're just going to waste time. I think that right now you need to be coached by someone else, have a different environment that's going to make you grow or understand things that I can't make you understand. And I need maybe to work with another jungler to learn things that I couldn't teach you. And if we work together in the future, maybe it's going to be great. But right now, I think that we kind of hit a wall, and there is no point trying to enforce this one. And we both agreed. It was very clear, and he was very thankful. Like, oh, guys, you told me very early in the off season that I can search a team, I can do things, and I'm very happy that it's TSM Academy. I think Matthew is a very great guy. Needs a lot of care from his management because he's very emotional, but he's definitely an admirable person and a good player. And that's it. It's pretty much this. So I think that's very important to be bilateral. Mm-hmm. And just don't come and say you're bad, because it's never just the player, right? Yeah. You create the ecosystem. So especially as a head coach is more like, you're not the boss, you're just the owner of the system. So if you create a system and the player is not performing in it, you should question your system. And if the player agrees that the system is good but still not improving, it means that maybe it's not the right system for the player, but still a very good system. This is the example of Big, prove that it has been a good system for some players. So then it's a choice. Do you want to change the system and sack the players that have been improving, or do you want to? Depends on the player, right? If you have, I don't know, if you have Faker and Faker is not happy, maybe you should switch your system for Faker. Mm-hmm. If you have, like, for instance, Big and Acadian, and you feel like you can let Big improve even more, but you don't have the receipt for Acadian, should you change your whole system? maybe not. Maybe you should just stop working together. So this is pretty much like the choice we've been making during the off season.
Okay. So another question for you. Mental health has been a big topic in esports, I think, over the last couple of years, like months, especially recently, with things happening. How do you guys approach mental health, and how do you approach mental health of people?
I think mental health doesn't exist. No, I'm joking.
Oh God, I actually own a counseling firm in Michigan and Wisconsin, so I was gonna be like, okay, Thomas, it's time for me to flame you.
No, I'm joking.
No,
It's
I
just I don't want to.
No,
I send a message to Saint about that and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm feeling very bad for him. But
Yeah,
yeah,
me too.
let's move on. So mental health, I think that SpopSci help a lot. I think we as coach and management, we need to improve a lot on this, and everything I've been speaking about during the previous 50 minutes is converging toward this point. Pretty much is how do you make a player happy, but how do you? There's a big difference between player happy and a player pampered.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very big difference. On our side, we didn't have a sports eye on in house. I think that teams have different way of approaching it. But the core thing is if player feel like so, we immediately like pull the trigger on that, because there is this ecosystem can be very harming. Let's be honest, it's very harming. You're not prepared to have like. I've been being caster for years. I've been shadowed more than anyone in France for being a caster about my opinion and stuff. I know how it can be feeling if you're not self-confident, if you don't deeply trust that you're right at the end of the day. So for young players that are making mistakes on stage, it can be very, very quickly harmful for them. So whenever we feel like player needs that, we pull the trigger immediately. We don't hesitate a second. I think it's very important. But I think that SpopSci is, I would say, an excuse as well for not doing the right thing as a coach, management stuff. If the ecosystem is great, players should be somehow happy, except if something bad happened, right? Is if sometimes they have mental blocks and stuff, and this is where, like, as a coach, maybe you can't really help and you need the upside. But if a player is not happy and you're not looking for it, and you just call the upside saying, oh, I really CBA putting time into understanding what this player needs and just do your job of upside, I'm not sure it's going to work. So I didn't see a lot of players being unhappy, because once again, this is the thing I say publicly, and I keep saying it. I think that we created a very good environment for the players in Optic, whether because people keep saying that we are a shitty org, and I think that we have been poor results, but doesn't mean that we have poor because you have poor results, you're a shitty org.
Yeah.
So I feel like mental health is a big topic that correlates with like the stories about amazing, double leaf, longevity. How do you interact with egos, extroverts versus introverts? Like this is all these pieces, like all these puzzle that you have to assemble. And that's to me as a head coach, I think this is the big challenge: is being mature and experienced enough to assemble all these pieces and saying this is the right solution. We should go in that direction. And sometimes taking the good compromise. For instance, I was like, no streaming. And some players came, no streaming. I was like, no, you can't. And at the end of the first split, I was like, if they really felt like the community is like something that's cheering for them and they feel good about it, why should I prevent them from streaming? I was like, okay, guys, you can stream whenever you want. And they were like, oh, yeah, cool. And they started streaming. And you know what? They didn't stream as much as I expect them to do. They actually streamed like 1 or 2 days the way I expected. So that's small things where sometimes you have to let it go and say, okay, do whatever you want, and sometimes being very tough. And whenever you feel like you can't help them and the situation is getting worse, call for extra help. Okay. That's how I feel about it.
I like that. So you mentioned kind of like getting shit on being a caster, and I think that's something about esports. Is a lot of times it gets propped up being this best thing ever. You get to play video games for a living. You get to coach video games for a living. I don't think people realize that there are definitely hard moments being in the position that you're in or the player's in. What has that experience been like for you? What was it like the first time that you just got like shat on the internet? Like, do you remember that?
I never cared. I never cared. As I said, I had a very tough childhood. I already got shot on when I was a young
The
kid.
internet
So
doesn't
I
got
don't
nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It's just words, and I think I'm very lucky. I had a very loving family. I still have a
You
very
still
loving
do.
family at 30, which is actually exceptional in modern societies.
Yeah.
I receive much love. I have a lot of friends. Actually, I was very surprised to see that many people at my 30th birthday last month in Paris. So I feel like I know that people love me for what I am, even though I have lots of bad sides. Everybody has, but I don't care what people say on the internet. I know that these people will care about me. The people that know me and everyone that worked with me know that I'm not a bad human. I'm not. I make mistake as everyone does,
Yeah.
and I understand that some people would make different choices. But the more I've been, all the people that I've been trying to give shit to me, I actually discussed a lot with them, like a lot of people, and it's like, okay, come to my situation and try to do it. I had some people and they were like, oh, you're so bad at casting. I was like, okay, so send me a pilot, show me. And the guy was sending, was like, oh, I tried. It's hell. Like, yeah, man, it's very hard. It's not something easy. It took me years to actually develop. And now you see me, and she's like, oh, but you didn't know that the E of LeBlanc has been actually nerf of 10 damage, like at level 3. So you must be a fucking moron. Yeah, or maybe I just don't spend my whole day watching patches and I just don't write them point by point because
Yeah.
I'm not playing LeBlanc. And oh, what do you play? Oh, I play LeBlanc every day. So you're a LeBlanc player and I'm the caster. That's normal that we have differences on the champions. That's normal, isn't it? Yes. So why you blame me? Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't blame you. That's internet, right?
Yeah.
People don't really care about what's happening. They want someone to give shit to. Like this is the thing. Internet is the place where you go after your hard day of work. You receive some shit and you need to vent it. So you're going to vent it one way or another. So people give shit to Zaboutine. I am Thomas. I don't care. The Zaboutine guy, I don't care. It's not me.
Mhm.
Like, they don't know me. They don't know what I do. They don't know what. Who the fuck knows what a head coach does?
Yeah. I don't
No
think
one.
I
Who
don't
the
think
fuck
anyone
knows how?
does.
No one knows.
Yeah.
And the worst thing about that, do you think I work the same way as Reaper? Do you think I work the same way as, I don't know, Robert? Do you think
It's actually funny because same thing for like performance coach, because performance coach isn't technically like a licensed title. So like
Yeah.
in a mental health, it's funny because you get all these different people who are actually from different fields doing performance coaching, and they have very different aspects because of their fields that they come from. It's like I come from a strict mental health, working with like drug addicts and kids, and working with them on educating them on different principles and working with them. I'm going to approach very much differently a player than someone who has been working with just athletes, right? Because
Yeah.
big difference. But I think that's true for head coach as well. Your life experiences help dictate the way that you decided to make decisions.
And I think that's, yeah. Do I work the same way as Weldon? For sure, no. So you have no clue about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
In my position, in my shoes, you wouldn't make like great choice. People just, the only prism they have on what I do is my draft.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, draft is like 5% of my week.
Mm-hmm.
Getting my players motivated on a Tuesday, not hinting on the first block of scrims of the week because they actually did nothing the last day. Trying to get them sleep at the right hour, wake up at the right hour, being awake, being motivated, being dealing with frustration after a bad game. Keep losing. We lost 30 scrims in a row at some point. 30. Losing 30 games in a row and keep them motivated and making fun of them, of the situation, instead of being like shouting at each other. That's the challenge on a daily basis. Do you think it's a draft? Do you think like, oh, you should have picked Brom instead of Alistar? Why does that change the big picture? The player was not in the right place of the map because he didn't know what he had to do. This is my failure. It's not Alistar, it's not Brom. Like this is minor. But people are only that because this is the only thing that Riot decides to show from the coach is just they come on stage, they draft, and they leave, right? And there is not that many features that actually emphasize what we're doing. And I think these interviews are a great place to speak about that. But people give shit to people online just because they are bored. That's the big thing. And what if you decide to go on the internet and say, this is what I do, the first thing you should be ready for is taking shit from other people. That's the first thing you need to be prepared for. Mm-hmm. That's what I think about this. So I really,
Yeah.
It's been 10 years, man.
10 years.
I really don't care anymore.
That's true.
I just do my thing, and the only feedback that I care about is the players.
Yeah.
Number one, even before anything. Second is my management. You know, being re-signed at Optic for 2 years, having the support of my management, having the support of my manager Keaton, having the support of Romain while I was a manager, having the good feedback from my players, having good feedback from other coach I've been talking to about like my knowledge of the game. Do you think I care? Like I don't even read Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen all the guys, all the experts are putting Optic 10th, like for the next split. How in the world would you put like? Why wouldn't you do a thing where you don't put a position, but you speak about what's going to happen because you think what's good and what's bad instead of saying this is going to be 10th?
Mm-hmm.
Because last year there was literally 3 points between the last and the playoff, and you say, oh yeah, this is a big difference. Optic faded so much; they were 9-9, and TSM was like 10-9. Oh, TSM outperformed Optic by a significant margin. Cool, man. That's great. Like good ranking, but people just want to get clicks, so that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it is an entertainment industry. They have to entertain, like...
Exactly.
I think that's something that people don't actually pay attention to is we, like, especially the people who end up working in, we're worried about, like, the games a lot of the time. And I think the players are, too. They're worried about, like, how they play. But in the end, it's actually an entertainment industry. And, like, it's very odd that it's two things at once. And, like, I understand that, but I don't really like parts of that, so...
I hate that, to be honest. I hate the
Yeah.
fact that we are industry because we should be a sports, but we can't be treated as sports because there is not in reach. So we need to entertain people as much as doing our thing. And at the end of the day, it's like it's a maze, and you need to find your way through it. I don't think there is a right exit. It's just if you win, everybody's going to love you. If you make the more you love, then you make a failure, the more the people give you shit, like BRSN or Double Lift.
Yeah.
If you lose. And you never won, you're just a loser and you're just a placeholder, and you have to accept it. And that's how all society works. But that's it, right? Everybody loves Britney, and like 5 years later, she's just a piece of shit. And then the next one is like Lady Gaga, and the next one is this girl, and the next one is this girl. Has been like when you turn 30, you understand that news are useless. Like newspaper news are useless because it's just a cycle of things that just revolving around. You understand that pop stars and things like that is just like a place to give shit to people, and the internet is just a place to actually vent. That's what I learned from my 30 years of existence. It's just people need to vent their frustration. That's it.
I think that's a great place to actually end this episode. Holy, that was like, I consider that a good spot. Do you have any shout outs you want to give? Normally I don't do them, but if you want to do them, I'll let you do them.
Shouts to you, man. I think that's, as I said, people of this industry, like what we do is complex. You can't speak quickly about something complex. We need long formats to speak about it. This was a really good episode for me to express my views. I could do it for 2 or 3 hours. Like I have more than enough ideas on like esports and stuff. So yeah, just thank you for being a good not here. Like the H in French is very hard. But yeah, that's it. It's just and yeah, wish us the best for the next year, because like we have all the analysts against us. So I guess they're right. And
well, I definitely wish you guys the next best of his season. This has been Deep Dives in the Minds of Esports, and until next time, everyone.